Just got a 15-page speech here. No one was thirsty, were they? Yeah, thanks very much this morning to the participants in the second Health and Safety Forum. It's going to be very difficult to condense 2 hours of discussion into anything less than about 45 minutes. So anyone who did fancy a drink, well, I'm sorry about that. But in all seriousness, and also I'm sorry I haven't got a limerick about Redditch either to imply some politically incorrect joke either. So we just have to plough straight on with it. So sorry to disappoint some people who are here today. Highway code. Who knows about changes to highway code? Familiar? Yeah. How many people have passed that on to the drivers in their company? Hasn't really been made public knowledge, has it? Hasn't been some massive information campaign by the government, has it? But it's changes to an approved code of practice, the approved code of practice to the Road Traffic Act, and so it has legal force. We don't know about it. It's to do with, and I can't give you any much detail about it because nobody's told me about it either. So who am I going to blame for that? But I need to, because I do a health and safety manager role as well, I need to go out and make sure our drivers are aware that they need to give greater space to cyclists. Cyclists have increased rights, not just to go through red lights in the middle of the City of London, but also to ride in the middle of the carriageway. Sorry, I can't resist a bit of a facetious comment there, so I apologise to all the cyclists present there, no offence intended. But just to round that off, there are important changes to the highway code that we need to make, me included, need to make all our drivers aware of. I'm not sure whether there's going to be any government campaign to publicise that. We had a very long discussion on drugs and alcohol, and it's all like interrelated with other issues we were talking about. Basically, if you perceive there is a problem, the first thing to do is to engage with staff. Now, this didn't kind of become apparent immediately during the discussion, but that engagement has got to come first. They need to be aware of the implications of and the situations where drugs and alcohol can affect physical safety. You need to have a policy, and if you identify that there's a problem, that means you've got a liability, and if you've got a liability, that means you've got to manage it. So you need to have a policy, very briefly. That policy needs to become part of the contract of employment, because if you're going to be implementing a testing program, you think it's necessary to do that, either random, which is got some pitfalls to it, or with cause, like you've seen someone behaving strangely or there's been an accident, then you need to ensure that failure to cooperate with you getting the test done if necessary becomes a breach of their contract of employment. It's a very big area, and it needs looking into further, and I think Ken suggested that it becomes an SPA initiative so that something can be put out there, a tool for all of us to use. If you need anything, here it's not a conflict, it's like the health and safety issues are quite easy to deal with. You think someone's under the influence, they're not behaving properly, they're doing a safety critical job, you can stop that straight away. Where you start getting the employment law issues will follow on from that, but the important thing is the engagement before sticking the boot in and going down a disciplinary route is the engagement with people, and before you even get there is making people aware of the implications of it. This also ties up with mental health we talked about. There are some organisations who have trained mental health first aiders. This is seen to be also an offshoot of that is also an improvement to engagement. Engaging with people helps you retain them. We were discussing that there's a problem in keeping staff of a good calibre, and the way to retain is by engagement. And part of engagement, ISO 45001, communication, consultation, participation, involvement. All of these things we're talking about, we could have the mythical 5 days residential training course in Barbados to get the points over. So there's big issues here being dealt with just some very few bullet points. We spoke about CCTV being an aid to preventing and investigating accidents, so proactive and reactive. The evidence is there on film. We spoke about the most serious risks to physical safety in your businesses, which is segregation of vehicles and people, and the hierarchy of controls that should be followed when you're dealing with that subject, and risk assessment of those issues as well. And also the relationship between segregation and PUR, provision and use of work equipment regulations. A lot of people want to go straight to the sexy bit of PUR, which is like prevention of access to dangerous parts of machine guarding and stuff. But a very fundamental part of PUR is where you're actually siting your machine or your process, because you've got to feed it and you've got to take stuff off the end of it. I think we spoke at a previous conference quite recently about change management, and if you are, and all part of that process is looking at that impact of that new machine, that new process in your organisation, and you've got a chance when you're doing it, or you should be taking that opportunity to look at segregation issues that might be caused by feeding the machine and taking stuff off the other end. So there was a lot of tie-up there with engagement of people. I think sometimes we look, we're always looking to control the physical hazards, but we shouldn't take our eye off the ball when it comes to engaging with people mentally, because it can have a lot of benefits. If you talk about improving a culture in an organisation, that's about people and attitudes, and it's getting management at all levels to communicate better with the people they're in charge of. And of course we highlighted the fact that maybe we're not training our managers that well either. And I think to myself, I do some manager training. Did you talk about how you might recognise someone who's under the influence or may have a problem at work with or socially with alcohol or drug intake, or how you might engage better with your staff? Maybe not. So there's some food for thought that came out of our discussion today, and I think it was very worthwhile. Difficult to get everything over to you, so why don't you come along the next time then, and then you'll know all about it. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, thanks.